Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I'm the moderator for this group. I'm so glad that you joined this community. It was created with you in mind. Our goal is to collaborate and support each other in this craziness that we call middle school visual arts. Whether you are the only one in your system or one of many, we know that you're going to find things here to help you. In order to make this as beneficial as possible for everyone, be sure to set up your notifications and check back often and participate in our posts and discussions that are going to be showcased. Please engage in discussions and offer up any support or questions that you may have. Also, share this platform with your friends and colleagues. All right, today we're going to be looking at a digital graphics project. And the title of the project that we're going to be doing is Transforming Masterpieces. So I'm just going to kind of go through the introduction and the basics with you for this one. And then later videos will talk to you about how we do sketches in my classroom for this project, and then how to actually go through the digital part of this project. So one of the first things that we talk about with our Transforming Masterpieces project is appropriation. So how do artists use artwork and make it their own? How do they use parts from other people's artwork, and what does appropriation mean? So I talked to my students about appropriation being the intentional borrowing, copying, and altering of existing images and objects, and that this is a strategy that's been used by artists for millennia. It really took on new significance during the mid-20th century with the rise of consumerism and the proliferation of images through lots of mass media outlets and magazines and television and all of those places where we see different things. And so I talked to them a little bit about Andy Warhol and that he was a pop artist that has been appropriated often. Right? And one of the examples that I show them is some of the t-shirts that we see from that have that same style as some of his original art. So I show them a couple of his images. I show them this one, the Marilyn Monroe one, and then a lot of times my students are wearing shirts currently that have this same kind of style to them. And so we talk about how people take images that are already out there and kind of combine them together. So this one was from the Rolling Stones logo. And so they took that and then Andy Warhol's style of the little 9 squares and being different colors and combined those together to create this t-shirt. The next thing that we talk about after I kind of introduce the project is our principles of design or principles of art that we use with this project. And these are the same little slides that I showed to my students. So we talk about contrast being opposites or differences between different elements of art. I remind them that the elements of art are things like line, shape, color, value, all of those things. And we talk about, how do you see contrast in this sculpture? And we talk about there's a contrast in shapes. Her head and her body are not the same shape. There's a contrast in colors between her skin tone and her top and her tutu. We talk about there being a difference in textures. So when you're creating art, you want to make sure that you have levels of contrast in them. The next principle of design that we focus on with this project is balance. And this was not a new one for them, so we would just review, and there's different types of balance. There's symmetrical balance, like this one. There's asymmetrical balance, like this sculpture by Robert Indiana. Right? This one. Right? One of the new ones that we talk about is emphasis, and emphasis is making something stand out. So what is the main object in your artwork? And I kind of relate that to, in language arts, we use main ideas as well, and that's usually the topic of the essay or the story that you're writing. In art, we just swap out that word topic for emphasis. It's like our main idea. What is it that you're drawing, painting, sculpting, creating with your artwork? And the last one we talk about is unity. And we look at this example by M.C. Escher, and we talk about how does unity affect their artwork. You want to make sure that you're using balance. You want to make sure that you're using emphasis and contrast, as well as using your different elements and principles. Your different elements of art. So things like line, shape, color, all of those things to help create your unity. And then we pull out specific examples from this picture to talk about. So I'll ask them like, okay, where do you see space in this? Where do you has balance shown? Where do you see contrast? And I let them give me feedback on those things. And then once we do that, I go ahead and introduce the actual project that they're going to be doing. And so we call this project Transforming Masterpieces. The essential question for this project is, how can I alter the theme and color scheme of a masterpiece using contour lines and a draw program? So we're going to be taking a masterpiece, and I give them copies of this, different masterpieces. This one's from the Mona Lisa, right? And they're going to take that and update it and transform it into something that is their own, that means something to them. So the first thing that they have to have is they have to have access to some type of photo editing software. There are free versions of photo editing software that you can use. There are paid versions. The things that you want to make sure that you're looking for in this photo editing software is you want to make sure that you have the access, the availability to do layers, so that you can do one layer on top of another. You can take the one layer out. You want to make sure that you have access to some of the draw tools, and you want to make sure that you have access to coloring tools. So these are just a couple of examples. This is Photoshop Elements, which is a paid version. Okay. This is GIMP, which is completely free. This is the one that we're currently using in my classroom right now to create this. And you'll notice they look very similar. They all have a toolbar. So we have tools over here. Right. We have some different color options and things. Right. On this side, you have some different types of drawing tools and painting tools. You can see your layers palette down here. So it's very similar to what you would see in some of the others. So those are the things that you want to make sure that you're looking for. All right, so most photo editing software is set up the same. I'm going to show you GIMP and kind of how it's set up. So this is your main menu bar at the top. Under each of these, if you click on them, there's lots of drop-down options that you can use. Right? I stick with the basics because this would be the first project that we would do to teach them how to use some of these tools and materials. So if you hover, this is our toolbar, and if you hover over this, it'll tell you the name of the tool. So there's lots of different tools. Okay, the one that we focus on is this paintbrush tool. And if you click and hold it, okay, there's other options here too. So I could use paintbrush, pencil, airbrush. So we're going to use the pencil tool to start with, right? And students can draw with it, right? They can change the colors of these, right? This is your color wheel. So you could just click on it, pick whichever color you would like, click OK, and it would change your color. And there are lots of options that you can choose. You can use the sliders here. Okay, you can adjust them here if you want it lighter or darker. You can move your mouse around by clicking and holding so you get the color that you want. Okay, your new color would show up here. So now I've got a purple. Okay, I can change the tips of my brushes to do some kind of fun effects. Okay, I could do some stars. So it would be more like a stamp. So you can play around with these different tools. There are also options here that you can work with. Right? I've already showed you your different pencil types or tip types or things that you can do. Right? And then the other really important thing for this project is your layers palette, which is this palette down at the bottom. Okay? With this palette, you have the opportunity to show your layers. So right now, I've got a white background layer and then all the things that I just drew. I can turn the eyeball off to either hide or show any of those layers. And that's the most important thing that you need to have with the photo editing software that you're using for this project. Right, to see more regarding this project, the part 2 and 3 videos of this series. Thank you for joining me. Please take a few minutes to participate in the discussion question. I can't wait to hear some of your wonderful ideas and share some of my own. So be sure to subscribe. Also, you don't want to miss any updates, posts, discussions, or any of the fun.